So, lads, if we're being honest, is Unrivaled trying to compete directly with the WNBA? Is Unrivaled as a league trying to take over the WNBA? Is that their plan? Because the way things are looking like, I don't see them getting the funding that they're getting and getting the money they're getting without there being something more. Without there being a bigger end goal. Because I've said this, I was like, if this ends up being a 3-on-3 league, it's done in 3 years. And I mean that. I genuinely mean that. I don't see it being a situation where this league is going to thrive in its current format. And right now, Unrivaled has just got an extra $28 million from the likes of Juju Watkins, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Michael Phelps, Dawn Staley gave some money. Funnily enough, Juju Watkins didn't get her NIL equity. Some players got equity as part of the NIL. Juju Watkins paid money for her equity. So, I don't know. I'm surprised they didn't. They didn't offer Juju Watkins the same deal as they gave Flau'jae or Paige Beckers. Which, that being said, I don't know. Maybe they kind of screwed over Flau'jae and Paige. Maybe they screwed over them, but they are obviously... look, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make money from the league. And these people would not be putting millions into this league if they didn't think they were getting money back. I'd say Giannis probably put in a couple of million. I would say Juju Watkins put in a couple of $100K. Same with Dawn Staley. These are coaches making big bucks on the year, on a yearly basis. Michael Phelps, a multi-millionaire as well. And I think a lot of people realize, okay, getting in on women's sports now is a great investment. And you probably can't really get anything cheap now because the boom is happening now. It might drop in a year or so, but you're not going to be really able to invest in a WNBA team right now without overpaying. Will it be an underpay in 20 years' time? Probably. But in 3 years' time, it might be an overpay if you're paying right now. But it is still it's still a mad old situation how much money's being pumped into this. And I think the goal is to go 5v5. I genuinely think the goal is to go 5v5 very soon. And as soon as next year. People are saying the 3-on-3 league has this. Full core 3-on-3. People don't realize how bad this is going to be. This is literally going to be it's going to just be people sprinting. People are just going to be sprinting back and forth. And obviously the list of investors is pretty huge. Even the GOAT Joe Ingles. Even Joe Ingles is investing. What a man. But I think the goal for them has to be to take over the WNBA. Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's just going to be where they play in the off season. They're making 3 times as much from the W as they are from Unrivaled. Why would they play in the W? Why? Just for pride? For pride? But if everybody just chooses to play in Unrivaled and nobody's playing overseas and the W can't compete money-wise or they won't compete money-wise. And the problem with the WNBA, people don't realize, is the CBA. It is the bad owners. And I think that's maybe what they're trying to do here is if you screw us, we're just going to go. We have Unrivaled, we're making more money. We don't need to play in the W. And they genuinely have all of the money, they have all of the backing, and they don't have bad owners like the Sun Tribe who won't want to pay anything for Connecticut. They're talking about expanding more into the future, about how we're going to move from just Orlando, which means people will be able to buy and sell franchises. This has a long-term plan of being the biggest American sports league outside of the big couple. So outside of the big, I'll say big 4 and 6. The NBA is owned by the NBA and soccer is soccer. It'll be the biggest basketball league outside the NBA and EuroLeague. And that's kind of what their goal is. Like, they have there is a non-zero chance. If all of the best players play in Unrivaled, like, if with the amount of money they have, if this league ends up drawing similar viewership to the WNBA, and the buy-in for a lot of really rich people is cheaper, and then you've got a lot of bad owners holding teams hostage, and effectively stunting the growth of the league by, all you need is 3 or 4 cheap owners, and your league's CBA is really going to take a hit. Because these players aren't making hundreds of millions of dollars, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then with Unrivaled giving them the possibility to make even more, especially with the bigger the league is, the more money they make because they all have freaking equity in the league. I don't think it's going to happen, but that has to be the goal. It has to be the goal. And play during a normal season. Because there is a legitimate chance that, okay, this goes well. This goes well, and we then go and, instead of starting the league in January, let's go and start the league in October. If we start the league in October, we can get more money, and we can pay our players $300,000, $400,000 a year, and suddenly the likes of Gabby Williams and stuff don't go back overseas. They don't go and play for the teams. They go and stay in America. And you play in Unrivaled, and some of these players that choose not to play in the WNBA, they might still choose not to do it. They just might play in Unrivaled instead. So it's going to be a really interesting thing because, again, you've got a lot of players who would have historically played in Europe. Like Marina Mabry played in Europe last year. Fee played in Europe last year. McBride played in Europe last year. Satu played in Europe last year. That's just off the top of my head, to be honest. In other years, there are other players that would have played overseas instead. But I think they're trying to compete. I think they are trying to destroy the WNBA. And not like destroy it from the inside, but like, I think they're basically, if anything, they might be trying to use it to leverage more in their CBA. And they might literally just be a case being like, well, we can just, as part of our CBA, we can literally just go and play Unrivaled instead. We can play Unrivaled. We don't need this league. And that is the scariest thing, is the fact that, like, obviously players have gone overseas before, but this could be the first time with the amount of funding that this league has and the amount of continued funding it's going to have. And depending on how this year goes, she may or may not, Caitlin Clark may or may not play in it. And if Caitlin Clark plays, it's going to be real tough. Like, I genuinely think Caitlin Clark playing in this league pushes it over the edge, but now that you've got Juju invested, you've got all the other big players. You've got all the other big names other than Caitlin. So, while, it's going to be bigger, you would take Caitlin over all 33 players currently in the league, plus Juju, plus Paige, plus Fauji. Caitlin Clark just in the league by herself with a couple of role players is still worth more. But at the same time, if you're not going to have Caitlin, why not at least have everybody else? Other than, actually, no, to be fair, Sabrina Ionescu, AJ Wilson. But anyway, I'll see you guys.